We have an amazing show today, and my guest, Jennifer Lieberman. Hello, Jennifer. It's good to see you.
Hi,
You know,
Linda. Thank you
it's
so much
funny.
for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. What's so funny is we literally just met, literally like 10 minutes ago. We hopped on here and we got connected from somebody else. Mickey, introduced us, and we just like I don't know about you, but I feel like we hit it off right away. So
Yes.
I'm excited to dive right into, what you're doing. Like you have a book out called Year of the What?
Yes.
And when I was reading your bio, and by the way, I accidentally clicked away from your bio, so I can't even read it. So I won't be doing that today. But I remember reading this one part of it is that you wrote a show, if I remember correctly, called Year of the Slut.
Correct.
But your book is titled Year of the What? So I want to just like dive first, like right into that. You had the show and then now you have the book of a different title. So I want to find out about that. What's that all about? And tell us what the book
Okay.
is about. Just tell us everything. Just go.
Okay. I'll get into the title first. So I originally launched the book with the original title in 2018. And after a year, I had so much trouble getting traction because I was censored. I was censored by Facebook, Amazon, and Instagram in terms of getting any ads approved because unfortunately the algorithm doesn't understand context. So even though it's a feminist piece and it's an empowering piece and it deconstructs the word slut, which is so often used as a weapon against women. And I I remember it was like just about a year after the book launched, a colleague of mine, her name's Stacey Damalski, she's the memoir midwife. So she did some consultation sessions with me to help me figure out the best route of self-publishing. And she was the one who suggested that I change the title. And I was so reluctant because in the theater, I feel like the title is what allowed me the success that I had as a theater piece. It helped me get butts in seats, as we say, as theater producers. So it was a catchy title. It grabbed people immediately. And I did the show in Los Angeles, and then I got into a festival in New York, and I ended up winning the Audience Choice Award. And thank you. I attribute the fact that I had enough people to vote because I had a title good enough to get a whole bunch of people into the theater. So I was super reluctant, and a lot of just females that I knew, whether it was from performing, I do stand up comedy, just girlfriends who weren't in the business at all, everybody was saying to me, like, oh, if I saw a book with that title, I would just grab it. I wouldn't even need to know what it was about. However, I couldn't break the barrier past my own insulated community because of the censorship with advertising.
Like, were you pissed or what? I mean, what kind of emotions were you?
Yeah, it was very frustrating because I couldn't figure out a way around it. And you know, I'm sure you've read Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. So I was rereading that book. I reread it every few years just for inspiration's sake. And it was literally January 1st of 2020 where I was reading the chapter about the author who couldn't sell his book and then changed the title and it went on to be a bestseller and he made a whole boatload of money on it. So because it was on New Year's Day, I was just like, okay, universe, I
You're
hear you
talking
loud
to
and
me.
clear. Yeah, I was like, okay, I wouldn't listen to Stacy, but you're bigger than Stacy. So that's what prompted me to do a new title and rebrand it. And probably the artwork on the original book wasn't the best. What I actually did was I did the opposite of the 50 Shades of Grey cover
Okay.
because 50 Shades of Grey was this phenomenal success in the literary world, but I felt like it did not empower um, the female protagonist, Anastasia. She just kept submitting, submitting, submitting. And my book is about a young insecure woman in her early 20s as well, but she finds power through her sexuality as opposed to submitting to a man and learning about herself through his parameters of what he wants from her. So I based it because that was like a black cover with the knot of the tie. So I did a white cover with like kind of crumpled up panties, you know. So maybe, you know, it was a combination of the artwork not appealing to the audience I was going for, but definitely the censorship was what killed me.
Yeah, it's interesting because we have these freedoms of speech, but sometimes the freedom of speech doesn't work to our advantage. I guess in so to speak, so many terms, because the title, like you said, the title is going to either attract or it's going to repel.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely, the old title that you had. This title here, it's more vague, but as far as censorship goes, it's not going to be censored because there's nothing
Yeah.
about it that is going to cause any censorship. So you have to you have to decide. And you and I were talking earlier before we went live here. We were talking about making decisions and you deciding what results you want to get, and then you got to take the steps to do it, taking that action. Women action takers is all about taking action. And so
Yeah.
you took your information, you said, I don't want to change it. Sometimes we got to go against like our gut. And
Mm-hmm.
I hate saying that because I really believe in listening to our gut. But sometimes the decision is one we don't want to make,
Yeah.
and to get that result that we want to get. And so like what's your take on that? I'd love to hear your take on it.
Well, actually, it's really interesting because I too believe in like going with your gut, and I believe that there's this energetic thing going on around us that we're always reacting to, whether we pay attention to it cognitively or not. However, I know that as an artist, a lot of times my greatest successes have been from going somewhere I was reluctant to go or uncomfortable to go.
Mm.
And I'll just use the example. I had a short film that I made a few years ago, and it was called LEASH. And it's an erotic thriller. And I wrote it it was about an artist and his model slash muse. And I was in a writing group in LA, and we read it in the writing group. I got great feedback on the writing, but one of the women who facilitated the group suggested, well, we've already seen this in 50 Shades of Grey. It was close to when the original movie came out. And she's like, why don't you swap the gender roles and have the male as the muse and the female as the artist? And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. That's not what I was writing about. And it irked me. And I remember driving around for like 2 days, and it was bubbling up, bubbling up, bubbling up. And I was like, why does this bother me so much? And I was like, oh, because I need to explore it. And I didn't change one word of the script in terms of dialogue, but I inserted a male actor in the female role, and I inserted myself in the male role and made the film that way, with a strong female character as opposed to a submissive female character. And we got to go on to some fabulous international festivals, and we even screened in the short film corner at the Cannes Film Festival.
Wow. That's how did that feel? I mean, here you are at the Cannes Film Festival. I mean, it's probably
Oh,
known worldwide, I
it was
imagine, but
surreal. It was
yeah.
surreal. It was a dream come true. Both of my short films, I made another short film 2 years later, and that ended up screening there as well, among other international festivals. And it was just, it just made me realize, like, I can't get comfortable with my work, and even though there are certain things I envisioned it this way, you have to be a little flexible, and you have to be willing to explore, because you never know what's if it's like the green eggs and ham. It's like you don't know if you like it until you try.
Exactly. I don't know. I've never tried great Angus before, but now it's interesting because you were willing to, you had an open mind, and that's part of the challenge for a lot of us is to
Mhm.
first have that open mind, but then you had the open mind, the open heart, and the open soul to hear and feel what they were saying. And then whether you agreed or not, maybe there you came to this understanding with yourself, maybe,
Mhm.
this agreement with yourself of that, you know what, I'm going to go this path and I'm okay with it. I want to see what happens. And I love that because it's I believe, it's having that open mind to hear what others have to say, and then
Mhm.
also to have that open heart and open soul to feel what they have to say, feel into it, and see that, you know what, maybe this will be the right path or a better path for me. Let me go down it and see
Yeah.
what's the worst thing can happen.
Exactly, exactly, and and that's the other thing. It's like so many times in life we're just closed off. We don't even want to, explore trying something in a different way or a different manner, or maybe going for a different type of position at work as opposed to the one that we're comfortable with. But it- I think this is what I've been comparing it to lately. I kind of found this comparison a few months ago. As we've gotten older, we don't have as much courage as we had when we were younger. Like when we were toddlers, we had to fall literally over 1,000 times before we could get up and walk. And we weren't afraid of failing because the goal of walking outweighed the fear of failing. And it's funny, like as we get older, we become afraid to experiment for fear of failure. And why do we have to call it failure? Why can't we say it wasn't for me? We would rather never try anything to avoid failure as opposed to trying it and being like, well, I wasn't really good at it, or I didn't like it enough to stick with it long enough to get good at it. Um, and I feel like the artist inside of me, if you've ever read The Artist Way, it's all about nurturing your inner child. And I really believe that that's important, not just for artists, but for just humans in general and our growth process in life, because it's so much more fun to keep growing and experimenting like you're a child.
It really is. And, I don't know if you know this, but in 2015, I faced a fear every single day that year because I realized I had so many fears that were stopping me from living.
Oh, that's
And
amazing.
just the fact of breaking through a fear every day, talk about failure. I failed every day,
Yeah.
and so I did break through the fears, but I had some sort of failure that came up. But I learned to see failure as a lesson. Like, what did
Hmm.
I learn from that? How can I go forward? And you know what? I don't let fear stop me anymore. Now I say, oh, I'm scared. I'm going to do it because of that. Because if
Exactly.
I don't do something because I'm scared, then I'm not going to move to that next step. I like to talk about like when you're learning how to drive, it's scary the first time you get behind that wheel. You got this
Hmm.
10 and 2, you got to look at everything going on. You got to know when to do your blinker. Know, do I do my right foot or my left foot? Like what am I doing here? Do I gear shift or not? All these different things that are just messing up with your mind. And now you get in the car and you eat while you're driving, or some people, shave their face. I've seen guys shaving their face or women putting on makeup while they're driving because it's become second nature. So just like
Hmm.
anything, if you step through it, yes, you might not do very well that first time, but keep going after it. You just keep going
Yes.
after it. And I love how you're doing the same thing.
And as children, we don't expect to be good at something the
Yeah.
first 10 times or 20 times we try it. Like even, riding a bicycle, taking our training wheels off. Like when we're small people,
Yeah.
we're kind of resolved that we're going to mess up a bunch. And it's hilarious how as we get physically bigger, we become so resolved of like, oh no, I can't mess up, I can't let anybody see me mess up. And even I've been on an artist's journey. I've chosen this path in my life. I'm a writer, I'm an actor, I'm a producer. And people love, when I first moved to New York almost 20 years ago now, people love to ask me like, how long are you going to give it? how long are you going to give it until you make it? Like, as if saying 3 years or 5 years or 10 years is like a reasonable answer. And my answer has always been, until I don't love doing it anymore. Why can't that be
Yeah.
a good enough answer? And why does my success have to be measured in the number of sports cars I have and the number of properties I own all over the globe? Because people, especially in entertainment, they see big movie stars and they're like, okay, well, if I don't know your name and if you're not in a dozen movies that I can rent on Amazon, then you're not a success.
Yeah, and I love that. It's so true. That's that there's the phrase work-life balance, which I think is a bunch of BS. And then also, talking about success, because success means something different to every single person. And I
Yeah.
don't want to compare my success to somebody else. To me, success means every single day I live my purpose. If every single day I'm doing my best to empower, inspire, and motivate somebody to take some sort of action. By the way, I had a phone call this morning. It was at 6:30 a.m. on a Sunday, and I was on this call with this woman. She goes, "Oh my God, I paid, tens of thousands of dollars to coaches. And just in this one 30-minute call, you have motivated me, inspired me to take some action on something that I've been putting off." And
Mm,
so I living my purpose.
it's
That is my purpose
amazing.
here. And it's
Yes.
so cool because for me, that is success. I am extremely successful because every night when I go to bed, I know that I did some really good work while I was here on this planet. I don't measure it by money.
Yeah.
And so I love that you said that because I know the industry that you're in can get really cutthroat. And this is at least what I hear. I'm not in that industry, so I don't know, but I hear it can be really, really cutthroat, a lot of catty comments and things like that. So how do you keep yourself out of that? How do you keep yourself out of that mindset? Because you seem to have a very positive mindset around all of this. So congratulations on that, first of all. But
Thank
how do you
you.
keep yourself there? Because I know you read
Well,
Think and Grow Rich and you read it periodically. So let's
yeah,
hear it.
so actually it all comes full circle back to Year of the Slut. I had been in the industry for several years. I had been in LA about a year. I was in New York for 6 years, and then I was in LA for about a year and a half. And somebody suggested that I write myself a solo show to invite agents and producers and managers, like in the movie La La Land, how Emma Stone made her own one-woman show to try and let people know she existed. So it was along those lines. And in the process of doing that, like, sure, I had certain goals. The goals that I had didn't transpire, but the show took on a life of its own. So,
Mm.
like in La La Land too, nobody from the industry that I was hoping to come really came. But I realized I finally, for the first time in my career, was working at a level worthy of my talent because I wrote the piece. I played 10 different characters. I was able to play 10 characters, different accents, different age groups, male, female. I had never been cast in a role that showed what I was worth, you know? And I joke about how when actors first get into the industry, we're kind of victims of how people perceive us. Because
Mm.
people will look at me and be like, oh, you could be the best friend, or you could be this, or you could be that. Nobody would imagine, like, oh, you can play, the 60-year-old Russian esthetician, or you can play Tony, the suave, Joey Tribbiani guy from Brooklyn. So creating that piece really, because I was kind of at my wit's end when I created that piece. I was so frustrated. I couldn't get a foot in the door. Sure, I had done off Broadway theater, and I had done bit roles and in TV shows and films, but nothing that could show my value. And once I created that, I realized, oh my goodness, I have spent every day for X amount of months not only in love with my process, but surprising myself at my own ability. Like, I was better than I thought. And that's kind of one of the most exciting things of being an artist. Like, whether you're a painter, a writer, a musician, like coming up with something that you're like, oh, where, I'm that good. And it didn't matter whether anybody else thought I was that good. I thought I was that good. And that was a huge turning point in my artistic career, because who knows if I would have lasted in the industry if I didn't start creating my own work. And once I realized that I could create my own work, I was inspired to help other struggling actors and writers get their productions off the ground. And I founded a consulting business called Make Your Own Break. Because with that show, I made my own break. I got to take it to New York. I won an award for it. It wasn't until several years later that it actually became a novel, but I kept making my own break. I made a web series called Dump Water Divas with a friend that was an 80s dance spoof. I ended up making several short films. I'm gearing up to direct my first feature film that I wrote once we get COVID a little more behind us.
Yeah.
Um,
That's
but
fantastic. Yeah.
it was a huge turning point, and that's how I've been able to stay positive and stay inspired, because I'm not chasing fame. I'm not chasing the industry. I would love to, get cast in a big movie or book a series regular on a TV show. All of that stuff, please, universe, send it my way. Send
Right.
me those paychecks. I wouldn't say no, but that's something I don't have control over. So focusing on the things that I do have control over really saved my spirit.
That's awesome. I love this because you took control of your own life. You didn't you weren't waiting and pining over this and hearing all those rejection, or you did hear rejections and stuff, but you
So many. I
you didn't
still hear
keep
them all
going
the
after
time.
that. Right, right. And that's the thing. Rejection, if you just keep going forward, eventually you're going to hit the spot, but you've created it. And I love that, because I think too often we don't realize that we can create it ourselves. Like, even if somebody, I have a friend, she's one of my clients and a friend, that she ended up creating her own YouTube channel where it's centered around a specific topic. And she always wanted to do that, but she just didn't know how. So
Mhm.
she learned how and created it. Now, is it again award winning? Is she getting millions of views? Is it going viral? No, not yet. But will it? Maybe. But it never will if she never started. And that's
Well,
what I think is the brilliance there, right? It's like that getting started. Oh my gosh, we're out of time. But so what I want to do here is I want you to share with us again, tell us a little bit about Year of the What. You can go to yearofthewhat.com. Tell us a little bit about that. And then I have one final question for you when you're done sharing about the book again.
okay. Year of the What is a coming of age, racy romantic comedy. It's about 25-year-old Dana, who is 6 months out of her first relationship. It was a terrible breakup. And she realizes that finding the one is going to take a little more time than she thought. And she's uneasy with her sexual desires. She's not into the idea of hookup culture and hooking up. And she feels a lot of shame about her sexuality. And with the help of her outlandishly outrageous and promiscuous dominatrix roommate, Kelly, she is set off on an outrageous adventure of self discovery and realizes that she has to find herself before she can find the man.
Wow, that's awesome. I love it. Congratulations for, just keeping
Thank
on
you.
going. You keep moving
Thank you.
forward, and that's fantastic. I wanted to share that, Barb Tomlin here, she says, I love that attitude. If more acting professionals took that route, the industry would be much more grounded and the quality of work much more authentic. So, so true.
Thank you, Barbara. Yes, exactly.
I love it. Thanks for sharing that, Barbara, because it's so true. So my last question to my guests is always the same one, and that is, what's one action step our audience can take today, tomorrow, or next week that will propel their business and or professional life? One action step.
That is a great question. Don't let the fear stop you. Is that an action or is that an inaction? Do it anyway. Do it anyway. I think that's the answer. Just do it anyway.
I love that. I love that. So just plain and simple, right? Do it anyway. Don't let that fear stop you from moving forward, because you don't want to get to the end of your life and say, "Oh, I wish I had." There's so many
Exactly.
people that do that. They live their life with having regrets. And if you just move yourself forward every single day, doing something that maybe scares you just a little bit, I don't ask you to do a year of fears like I did, but if you want to, it will change your life. But just doing those fearful steps, stepping through them. And I know Barb had shared also, is to let fear be your fuel. Let
Yes.
fear be your fuel. Instead of letting it stop you, let it put fuel on your fire, and or maybe I'm not sure the right term, put gas on your fire.
Yes. And I'd also say find a buddy. Everything takes a village and you don't have to do it alone. So
Oh
whether
yeah,
it's
that's good.
somebody who's a family member, a friend, somebody in your industry, I can tell you 100% this book would have never been published had I not had some cheerleaders in my life, because there were at least 3 times where I got so discouraged I couldn't look at it for over a year and just resolved that it was never going to happen. And then
Wow.
I get a call out of the blue from somebody who I had told about it. And they're like, "What's going on with that?" "No, it was really good. You should finish it." So that's the other thing too. Find a buddy, find an accountability buddy. That actually would be the do it in tandem with do it anyway. Do it anyway and don't do it alone.
And there we go. Do it anyway and don't do it alone. But if you're going to find that accountability buddy, make sure it's somebody who will keep you moving forward, not somebody who will allow you to wallow in your self-pity.
No.
Keep moving forward, right? You need to find those people who are those positive, motivational, inspiring people that will help you to keep moving forward. Jennifer, I'm so sad our time is up, but I
I
know that
know,
you're going to be
me too.
she's going to have me on her show as well. So
Yes.
when that comes out, I will share that, share that with everybody. And I'm excited to be on your show, and we'll flip the coin over, so to speak, and see what we have to share over there. You guys go to yearofthewhat.com. Go get her book and go look at all her other books that she has as well. You're on Amazon, I'm sure, but you're
Yeah,
on other
Amazon, and
places.
You're the What is on Audible also. So if you're taking a long road trip before the summer's over, you can get the audio version.
Okay, I'm not done then. So you said you do different voices and things. So for the audio book, did you record that yourself, and did you use different voices in
Yes,
that?
I did. Yeah, I
You
played all the
did.
characters that I played in the play. There were actually like double the amount of voices in the book. Not as prevalent, but because I did do a different voice for every word of dialogue or character. Yeah, it was so much
Okay, give
fun.
us your Joey Fatone.
Dana, you gotta leave right now, or I can't be responsible for what's gonna happen.
You even got the facial reactions and everything are going on. So if you're listening to this, you got to go watch it on YouTube so you can see her facial reactions. I love. What about the 60-year-old woman?
Oh my God, she's like my favorite character. Hello, sweetie. How are you today? Oh, boyfriend, your problem. Love is bullshit. There's no love. There's hard work and hard life, or easy life with rich man. If he not, es ho.
Bravo, bravissimo. I love it. That's
She's like my
fantastic.
favorite. And now if it ever gets made into a movie or a show, I'm like too old to play the 25-year-old protagonist, but I want to play her. I want to play the old lady.
There you go. That's so funny. She could have her own show. That's for sure. I love it.
Yeah, she's the best.
Well, thanks, Jennifer, so much for being here today. I truly appreciate you, what you're doing. And everybody, again, go to yearofthewhat.com. Get the Audible. I saw Barb is going to get your Audible version. So she's
Awesome.
got it on Audible with all her voices in there. That'll be so much fun. Everybody have a great day. And remember, take action. Make sure you put yourself out there. Don't let fear stop you. Let your fear fuel you, and find that accountability buddy. Jennifer, thanks so much for being here. This is Linda Sunshine West, and we're out for today.